In 1952, the Belgian rider Victor Leloup was the first European 500cc champion, while Sweden's Bill Nielsen became the first ever 500cc world champion in 1957.
For spectator interest, the riders circled the arena before diving down into the wood. He's even too excited to lick. A remarkable hazard for an international motocross is an almost unclimbable hill.
International events in the 60s were truly spectacular occasions. Often the courses were built around parkland in the capital of the host country, as here in Belgium. Trees and spectators were a common hazard.
Terrifying jumps thrill the 30,000 crowd, although controlling them is impossible. The ACU might consider spectator control a little sketchy, but the police carry firearms. The trees are padded, and there are two different ways of not hitting them. Whoops! And now to lay the dust. A new use for old Sampoil. Oi, mind where you throw it.
Jeff Smith was still the man to beat. For more than 20 years, he was Britain's sole motocross world champion, although he was having to share the limelight with another British rider, John Banks.
Teammate Banks ahead of rival Everts. In the lead is West Germany's Adolf Biel on his Maiko. From Banks, Hickman, Aberg, Thoman, Johnson and Nicol.
Television coverage of the big events boosted the crowds and helped spread the word about motocross. If John Banks fell or won a Grand Prix on the continent, it was headline news back home in England.
He remounts without losing second place, while teammate Hickman chops Aberg. Kites by accident, of course.
By the late 60s, the sport of motocross had changed dramatically from those early days. The rugged war horses had given way to highly tuned specials built purely for motocross. And when BSA withdrew from the sport at the end of the 60s, the four-stroke as a major influence was at an end. But from then on, motocross grew and grew in popularity thanks to the lighter and cheaper two-strokes. Many other countries were now catching on to the sport and manufacturing machines. Once the word had spread to the Far East, motocross would never be quite the same again.
Friedrichs and Banks. Number 56, identified from the rear, tries taking it nice and easy, but he still ends up in the mire.
The Japanese invasion was led by Suzuki, followed by Yamaha, Honda and Kawasaki. And it wasn't just the engines which were developed fast. The frames became lighter and more flexible, while improvements in suspension gave the riders more control. In the 80s, Britain had a new motocross hero, Dave Thorpe. He won the world title 3 times and brought the sport to a new generation of fans. His last triumph came in 1989 on a 250cc Honda, and these pictures show how much it meant to the British fans.